Alright, everybody. Time for my haves and have-nots review. I'm late with this. I tried to get it up earlier than this, but I had some stuff to do, and I like to rewatch the episode too before I do my review, so I don't miss anything. So last night we start out with Landon and David. We're at the hotel. Landon comes up to David at the hotel restaurant, and he tells him, well, this is my last day here, I'm leaving, I'm not working for you anymore. And David's like, okay, good. And Landon says, that was unprofessional what I did. And what he did was he set Veronica up to get ambushed by that reporter. And Landon's getting ready to leave, and he stops and he comes back and he tells David that it's terrible the way your wife talks to your son. And basically he tells David, you don't stand up for your son. And he says, I do stand up for my son. And Jeffrey needs to learn to stand up for himself. And David, he doesn't want to believe that he needs to stand up to Veronica. And he doesn't seem to believe that she's genuinely a very nasty person. Okay, so after that, Maggie comes up and Landon is trying to get out of there. He was trying to get out of there. And Maggie says, oh no, you're not leaving. And he says, yes, I am. So Maggie takes out her cell phone, calls up this lady and tells her, cancel Landon's flight and his car to the airport. And then she's like, how you gonna get home now? And so now Landon has to stay because she canceled his flight. She doesn't get to the office. We're gonna get some calls about the funeral, Amanda's funeral. And so after that, David and Maggie, they have a conversation about Candace and David's plan. He doesn't tell Maggie what his plan is, but anyway, he got Candace the interview at that law firm she wanted to interview at, and Candace comes down. She calls him Mr. Old again. Candace always being shady. And David asks her, why do you want to work there? I know you can live comfortably. And she says, I want to work there for any other reason that anybody else does, to live. And he's not quite sure what her angle is there, but Candace, we know that she wants to make her newfound wealth look legit. So she goes over and she inquires about she collects a call and inquires about a house on Abbott Street, I think she said. And then this guy that's been watching her, he comes up to her, and let me go back to when David and Maggie were talking. Maggie asked David, why do you keep looking at that guy? Because David looked over at this guy that had been watching Candace in the last episode. So when Candace is making her phone call and she's done with that, the guy, he comes over to her and he's if David hired him to do anything, he's very sloppy at it because his approach and everything is not very, very good. Candace notices the tan line where his wedding ring is supposed to be. And she says, did you just take your ring off? I know your wife wouldn't appreciate that. And he's like, well, my wife's been dead for several years, and you're the first reason I've had to take my ring off. And I'm like, lame. That's exactly what Candace said. That was lame game. And like I said, if David hired this guy, the guy's not good because he's kind of sloppy in his approach. So Candace blows the guy off. She says, well, I'm an escort. I charge $25,000 for my services. And so the guy comes back later in the episode and he has $25,000, or whether he has $100,000 saved. I'm going to need 4 hours. And Candace is like, no. She's like, take your little money and go on it. Candace is always touching dude below the belt. She's done it to Jeffrey. She's done it to David. She may have done it to Jim, I think. And now she did it to this guy. She's touching him below the belt and says, see, I don't trust you. You're not even excited or whatever. And the guy says, well, maybe you can help me with that. So they after that their next scene was she I believe Landon tells her that the guy who was a former athlete, he runs an investment firm and makes a ton of money. Landon's, of course, he's a publicist, so he knows all this stuff. And Candace is like, she actually, at the end, she asked the guy about, about auctions, because Benny wants to buy these tow trucks, because also in this episode, we see where Benny was looking at these tow trucks with his friend, and the friend wasn't able to get the tow trucks either because his financing partners didn't come through, and they're looking at the trucks, and at the same time that girl that sold Benny the car, she calls Benny after Benny thinks she wants the car back, but all she wants is some book out of the car, and Benny's friend is like, don't you see what she's doing? She's trying to holler at you. And that may be what she's trying to do. I'm not sure. There's something suspect about this girl. She may play more of a role in future episodes, but I don't know exactly what that role will be. Okay, so back to Candace and what she was doing. So she has her and Landon, they banter a little bit in this episode, and so when it comes out what happened with Jeffrey, we get back a little bit to his storyline, because Quincy comes back to his apartment and he doesn't find Jeffrey there. And forgive me for jumping around, I'm just trying to cover everything up, talking about everything as I think of it. He comes back, he doesn't find Jeffrey there, and I said, Quincy, you're stupid if you think Jeffrey is going to still be at the apartment. Of course, Jeffrey was going to run because you're crazy, Quincy. So he's mad, he kicks in the door. He has Jeffrey's cell, he dials Candace's number. Candace sees it, she said, oh, it's Jeffrey. And Landon wants to answer the phone, and first she's like, no, and Landon says, please, he hasn't been returning my call. And he answers the phone, being all flirtatious and stuff. And Quincy doesn't say anything at first, and Landon's like, okay, I know you don't want to talk. And he's like, and Quincy's like, who is this? And Landon's not picking up that this is not Jeffrey. It doesn't even sound like Jeffrey's voice. And finally, when Quincy says, well, you with Candace? And then he says, where at? And finally Landon catches on, and Landon says, who is this? Quincy disconnects the call. Candace figures out that something is wrong, and she says, what room is Jeffrey's dad in? Landon says, oh no, you're not getting me in that. And she said, please, it's important. So he tells her, and Candace rushes up there, and of course Landon thinks she's up to no good, but this time Candace really has someone's best intentions in mind. So she goes up there and tells David, you need to check on your son. I think something may have happened to him. And he's like, did you do something to my son? If you've done something to my son, you're going to pay for this. And, the whole spiel about all of that. And she says, it's not me, it's your wife. Your wife is crazy. You are so sad that you do not realize how crazy your wife is. She says, I think she may have done something to your son. And she says, you go check on him. And still Davis is like, all right, but if you've done something to him, I will do, and all that. And I said, David, just go check on Jeffrey. And so so let's get into the whole Crier storyline with Hannah. And so Hannah, she's at the Crier mansion. She's coming to work. And here comes Celine, who has been fired. Apparently she just doesn't think that the firing was real, so she's just there and ready to start some mess, because she's like, whose car is that in the drive? And Hannah says, it's mine. And Celine's like, well, you need to move it because you're in my parking space. And Hannah says, but you don't work here anymore. And so Hannah goes on to tend to Catherine. Catherine has the name and the number of the funeral home she wants Hannah a call and says she wants Amanda buried right away. So Hannah takes that number and she talks to Catherine a bit and she says, well, this whole thing is going to hit you in waves. It's going to be anger, grief, and I forget what else she said, but she said it's going to hit you in waves. And she said, and hopefully it'll hit you one by one as opposed to just one wave, because if it does, it's going to take your breath away. And so here comes Celine. And Celine's ready to start some mess, and Catherine says, I think the wave just came all at once. And Catherine tells her, you were fired, you need to get out of here. And Celine's just being smart, just being almost sarcastic, like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And so Catherine calls Jim. Jim comes downstairs and he reiterates what Catherine says, is you're fired and you need to go home. Wyatt's in the background egging it out. Well, I want to see this. Ooh, it's about time. And all the while Jim's telling him, go on. I don't want to hear from you, Wyatt. Get out of here. Because Wyatt's doing nothing but egging the whole situation on and being a background player, an instigator, basically a troll. So Celine thinks that the firing is not serious, and finally says, Jim just says, go on. You're fired. Get out of here. And Wyatt tells her, bye baby mama, and winks at her. That was one of the best lines of the night. So that was the last we saw Celine for the episode. But I'm pretty sure she's not done, because she's got blackmail material of her own, and that's what's probably going to come up in the future episodes, because I think her employment was contingent on her silence. So now that she's no longer employed there, her silence is not required. She can go to the press if she wants to. And so next with the fires, Hannah had called a cleaning crew to clean up Amanda's room because it was still a mess. There was still blood and everything everywhere. And Hannah had told Catherine about this, and she said, well, and they're going to move her things to the attic. Jim sees this, and he goes off on Hannah with his usual arrogant attitude. Who told you to do this? I want you to get out of my house. If you see me in the hallway, and it got to Hannah where she just hollered, shut up, demon! And Jim, he was like at a loss for words. He said, what did you call me? And she said, you heard me. I said, shut up, demon, in the name of Jesus. You will not talk to me that way. And so he just was like telling her, go on, get out, all of that. And Hannah says, gladly. She walks away. Jim, he breaks down and is crying, and Hannah is in the hallway and she can hear him crying, and she's trying to get herself back into her good place, into the good zone, the Christian zone, to do the right thing. So she gets herself centered, she goes back in the room, and he just embraces Hannah, and she explains to him why she did what she did. She says, I found her in here. I can't get that image out of my head. It's in my head. I wanted to spare your family this grief. That's why I did what I wanted to do. And it was a touching scene because Jim was actually humanized. One of the things about the character of Jim is we know that he's very selfish and methodical, calculated, and all that. And sometimes it's not all that smart about how he handles things, but the one thing we had not seen from him previous seasons was a real human element, and this brought a real human element to the character, and I like that. So Hannah handled that. She handled that, and I was actually surprised that Jim gave just really sort of listened to her, and he seemed to get something out of what she said. And so the other big scene was Benny, Tony, and Hannah. So Hannah comes home from work tired. She gets her something to drink, comes and sits down on the couch with Benny. And one of the back one of the doors to the rooms opens up, and out comes who else but Tony. Now Benny had talked to him earlier on the phone in the episode, because Benny had called him, and Tony was returning his call. So he wants the truth from Tony. Yes, Tony, why did you want to take me off life support? Tony comes up with the line, you were in a vegetative state, and I didn't want you to live like that. I know you would not want to live like that. And Benny says, what was my batting average in high school? What is my favorite color? What is my birthday? Tony don't got no kind of answers to anything. And after that, Tony, his answer's like, what had happened was, that's the way he was talking. And Hannah, she's still trying to be decent. She doesn't want to try to ruin any potential relationship that Benny has with Tony. She wants Tony to tell the truth for himself, so if that relationship is ruined and Benny wants nothing to do with him, it isn't on her. It's out of her hand. But Hannah, trying to do the right thing. Benny's wondering why Tony would do that. He said, and you took her to court? You know she can't afford that. And Tony's just a coward. He dodges the question. And he keeps a good poker face. You can't really read what he's thinking. You can just see that he is not telling the truth. You know he doesn't want it to come out, but his poker face is like where, Benny wouldn't be able to read anything that he was thinking. And if Hannah isn't telling, and then what the issue was, then Benny's probably not going to find out. Now Candace may give him the truth, because Candace don't care about nothing. She would just tell Benny the truth. Your father tried to pull the plug on you because he wanted your kidney. So, I think, okay, wait, and then there was the ending. So at the Pryor mansion, the DA arrives, and I forgot to say, Wyatt finally changed his clothes and stopped wearing the same funky clothes he'd been wearing from the start of the season. So that was good. So the DA arrives at night. Wyatt steps outside, and he just drops the bomb. He said, I hit those people. I hit those people. And so the DA says, well, let's go around back and talk about this. So that's how that ends. And next week, things are really going to heat up, because Veronica is back. She's back on our screen. The villain is back on our screen. David knows that she unleashed Quincy on their son. He says, you unleashed a murderer on our son. And she says, yes, I did. I told him to beat him. I told him to beat his age. I'm like, Veronica, you really don't care anymore. And if David can't see that she is just out of her mind by now, then David just is never going to get it. But overall, it was a good episode. I hope I covered everything. Next week is the last episode before the season finale, which will be on March. The season finale will be on March 24th. So a lot of things are wrapping up. The preview didn't really give us much indication of where Wyatt's story is going to go, but he's dropped the bomb. And yes, but we did get a little indication of where it's going to go, because we see Veronica being served with a search warrant, because the police want to find out where that car is. So Veronica is in trouble. So a lot to look forward to next week and in the finale. I think the finale is going to be good. The season finale is going to be good. So thank you for watching. Rate and comment if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.